Miss Aaron.
I have that.
Are you ready?
The executive clock says 4 o'clock.
Pushing it.
The executive clock. I'd like to call the December the 15th, 2022 Lenoir City Board of Education meeting to order. Ms. Herring, roll call.
Mitch Ledbetter,
Here.
Glenn McNish,
Here.
Lacey Murray,
Here.
Rick Chadwick,
Here.
Chris Claybo.
Here.
Ask that everyone stand for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge of allegiance, please. Please remain standing for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be seated. This time, I would like to welcome 2 new board members to the Lenoir City Board of Education. Lacey, Chris, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah, welcome aboard, but you will not be bored.
Yeah. I was gonna say, we are not B-O-R-E-D, but B-O-A-R-D, so you might get a word or two from other people, but welcome aboard. I think it's gonna be a good time. I know it's gonna be a good time, and look forward to it, and excited about the 2 new board members. So welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Dr. Barker, you have a presentation?
I do. So in recognition that this is the first meeting for each of you, I have a little momentum of the day that you were sworn in at City Hall. And so we have for you a framed print of the event for you and your family. So we want to say welcome, congratulations. We're glad to have you as a part of
Thank you so
this.
much.
You're welcome.
Now it all goes downhill. Motion that we approve the agenda.
Make a motion, we approve.
Motion by Mr. McNish to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Mr. Chadwick to approve. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Does that make you happy?
That's very good.
That's
Very good.
right.
You are awesome.
That doesn't last long either. Have a motion to approve the minutes from the November 3rd, 2022 meeting.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion by Mr. Chadwick to approve the minutes.
Second.
Second by Mr. Claybo. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, on to executive committee reports. Pleasure of the board.
Make a motion, we approve.
Motion by Mr. Nish to approve the executive committee reports.
Make a motion, we pay our bills.
Second by Mr. Chadwick. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? On to new business. Ms. Millicent Smith, update on instructional materials. Any
Just
word?
thought this would be a good time of the year to share with the board some updates, just an overview of kind of where we are this time of the year, just a little bit about the district as a whole. And, you know, as you know, we have some measures that we use to sort of formatively check our progress throughout the year. So we thought this would be a great time to share just a few little updates around that. So we'll get started with highlights with, I don't know why this is not advancing there like it should be, but I'm just gonna. Anybody know why that's not working?
Let's try it again. Let's pull it down.
disconnected, however you
Yeah.
I mean, it is disconnected.
Should we turn the TV off and turn it back on?
Oh, waiting, we're going to sing the 12 days of Christmas. You started.
I mean, I'm not, I'll turn it off. Should I wait till it?
Make a mess out of it.
To the bed. Yeah.
It's not moving, it's just sitting there. No, it's going around.
Bad omen, they bored.
It's never done this before, so I don't know. Just kidding. No, it does it all the time.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm sure it does.
I think it did.
It does it all the time. Let's try it. All right, now, okay. So just a few little things that have happened over the past year or so, things that we're working on as a district. First of all, you may have seen the newspaper just recently, Lenoir City Schools was identified as an advancing district for the 21-22 school year. We have several distinctions as a school system. First of all, we are a best for all district in the state, and that's a distinction the state has given districts for meeting several different commitments and benchmarks in several of the initiatives that the state has engaged in over the past couple of years. We are also distinguished as a grow your own district, so we have really done a lot of work within the district trying to identify some of our own people who are interested in entering the profession of teaching and thinking of ways that we can cultivate our own teaching force in this time where it is difficult to find high quality instructors to put in front of our students. So that is something that the state has worked on with several educator preparation providers in the state, like the University of Tennessee and different universities across the state, working with districts to help us develop a program where we can support our own potential new teachers. And so we're distinguished in that area. We are also recognized as a Reading 360 district. As a district, I have a seat on the Reading 360 Advisory Council, representing Lenoir City Schools. So we have a leadership role in that advisory council based on our work that we've done with a lot of the literacy initiatives in our district. We are also recognized as a 10 all-core district because of the extensive work we've done around tutoring in the district across all of our grade levels and Sean Walker represents us on that state committee. Dr. Barker also represents Lenoir City Schools in a variety of the commissioners, different councils, and advisory groups as a superintendent representing us in that way. So we have a leadership role across the district in a lot of these areas. So we're not only just distinguished as participating in these programs, but we have a leadership role in many of the advisory councils. We are also a mentor district for the Literacy Improvement Network, and I'm the facilitator for that network. We have about 6 districts that we as a district work with. We mentor Hamilton County, we mentor Knox County, plus several other smaller districts around us, in helping them figure out how to strategically implement and support high quality instructional materials in literacy. But because of our work in that, we have been recognized as a facilitator and a mentor. So there are mentor districts across the state. Each mentor district is assigned multiple districts that they work with. So we meet with them on a monthly basis. They do walkthroughs, and we give them feedback on things that are going on in their classrooms, and provide a variety of support throughout the month. And that is a 5-year initiative. We are coming into the middle of the 2nd year, so we've got quite a commitment there to help those districts as they're working on their literacy improvement. We're also in the Early Literacy Improvement Network. And I would say too, in the Literacy Improvement Network, our high school and middle school administrators participate on that, as well as Shannon Tuss, our literacy coach, also participates in that. We also are members of the Early Literacy Improvement Network, and Dr. Tinker has represented us quite a bit in that network as we support the efforts for early literacy across the state. We are also a member of the Math Implementation Network. All of these networks are important because they are accompanied by grant funding that help us support our own implementation and professional development of our teachers. And the Math Implementation Network is very important because we're in the middle of a math textbook adoption year. And so Sherry Long, our STEM coach, our math coach, has worked very hard with our teachers to help kind of guide them through the math adoption. So we participate and engage very actively in a lot of state initiatives to make sure that we know what's going on instructionally in the state, that we're on the cutting edge of that information, and that also we take a leadership role as a district among our peers, so that we can make sure we're abreast of the things going on. So very proud of that. This is on our report card, so we have those distinctions that are prominently affixed to our report card. So anytime anyone from the public goes and looks at that, they can see that we have all of those. So I think that's kind of important to know. We're really trying hard to stay on top of the most current research and best practices across all of our content areas. And so just a little snapshot of where we are in terms of our demographics in the district. This is just a little bit of information that we wanted to share, just kind of an update as to where we are in terms of our total enrollment. And we have, our 4 schools now. We have 4 schools in Lenoir City, and you can see our demographic breakdown there as well.
Just this little note, we ended last year with an enrollment of 2,444 students, and we're at 2,590. Actually, 2,576.
Yes.
That is a moving number.
It is.
Students come and go.
It's hard to put it in black and white at any one point in time during the year. And then when you take this big picture view and break it down into each of the brick and mortar schools in the district, you can see the enrollment there, and then the demographics there. And you can see there's some interesting shifts in our demographics as you move from the elementary to the middle to the high school, which are extremely important to put into context when you talk about our data and our academic data, our growth and achievement data. It's very interesting to think about how the schools are different. I don't know if principals, if you guys want to share anything, or if there's anything you want to highlight just from the demographic data of your schools to share. It's pretty self-explanatory, but you can see that there are shifts, particularly as you move from the elementary to middle to high. So we have sort of this list of things that we look at throughout the year and at the end of the year to give us some indication of how well we're doing as we move through the year with our academic strategic plan and the things that we're doing in our classrooms. And so we look at our academic goals around growth and achievement. It's very important that we look at both of those measures to make sure that we're doing the very best we possibly can for our students every day. And we have several indicators that we monitor to make sure that we're on track. And the cool thing about this slide is there are no red arrows pointing down, and that's the most important thing, the biggest message we take away. And sometimes, you know, there are one or two there, and that's okay. That tells us, okay, we need to maybe look at this a little more, or there are things that we need to do a little more strategically. But every decision that we make around our strategic academic plan and the things that our principals are doing on a daily basis to support instruction in the classroom is very much centered on these things. We know at the end of the year, these are the things we're going to be held accountable for, and so we try to track it and make sure if there are things that we need to do, adjustments we need to make, we're doing that along the way. So we have our READY data, which is our formative benchmark data that we use. We have screener data, but we also do mastery checks along the way throughout the year. We do formative checks, little check-ins in our classes across the board, K-12, to make sure that we are moving students through progress toward mastery of our standards at each grade level and content area. We had fall 21 EOC data. We just today finished, thank you high school for all the work you've done, and iLearn Institute. I think we had 100% tested. And iLearn, we just finished this fall's EOC testing. So obviously we don't have that data back yet, but we'll be looking for that. And then spring 2022 EOC data, and then our instructional rounds and classroom walkthroughs. Those are just the formative visits that we do all of the time in classrooms. All of our administrators, our coaches, our coordinators, we're in classrooms all the time, monitoring instruction, supporting teachers, getting feedback, giving feedback. And so we are making a lot of progress instructionally to make sure we're doing what we need to do for students. Our attendance, we always are thinking about reducing that chronically out of school indicator, really figuring out ways that, you know, we need kids in school in front of we've got great teachers, very committed teachers, and we've got great materials, and we want to make sure our students are there at school every day so that they can get the instruction that they need. Very happy with our graduation rate. We've started to climb back up. We have had, just like everybody else, everywhere, but in the state, we had, you know, a little disruption over the past few years. And so we feel very good about the things that we're doing and the strides that we're making to bring us out of that unpleasantness that we had and really moving forward. And so all of these indicators are letting us know, you know what, we're starting to get back to business as usual, and for Lenoir City, that means our students are doing very well, and they're at school, and they're prepared for what comes next. And that's what that Ready Graduate indicator is. So very much looking toward the ACT and those readiness benchmarks, as well as early post-secondary opportunities. So we are seeing that we're back in a place where we feel good about our students and what they're going to be prepared to do. Dr. Barker, any?
I just want to say, board, this is a testament to the way our teachers are using their time wisely in class. They are focusing on the right things. The materials that we provide them, the professional development that our coaches and administrators provide them, conversations that are daily about instruction. This just shows that our students are getting good instruction in the classroom, because that's really where all of this happens. And we all know that the teacher matters. And so we're very, very pleased that we have the opportunity to also give them this feedback and support, let them know that they're doing a good job. You know, it's one of the things to say, well, I think we're doing a good job. It's another to say the data shows that students are able to perform. So we don't want the data to be the only data we look at, to be that TCAP at the end of the year, because we know a lot of things happen throughout the year to prepare for that. So this allows us to have every confidence that we're doing every day what we need to do for students in the classroom. So
And I
thank
think
you for sharing that.
I think that's a great point, because what we tell as a teacher, you formatively check your student so that at the end, it's not a surprise. How well they do is not a surprise. And that's kind of what we want to do. We want to make sure that we're formatively staying on top of things, making sure we're supporting teachers, supporting our students, so that at the end, it's not a surprise. And so we can see, this is just a quick snapshot of our summative data. And so we can see, you know, we're making progress. We still have a lot of room to grow. This slide is about achievement. So this is just strictly our student performance against our annual measurable objective that we are given each year from the state. And you can see the gray is the prior year, the orange is the 21-22 school year. And so we are not where we want to be. We are never satisfied, yet we can see that we are making a lot of improvement and starting to get back to where we know that we need to be for our students. And it is about giving students opportunities when they leave us. And so everything we do is in service to making sure we're providing them the most opportunity to take advantage of that. And then this slide is our growth slide. And you can see, again, we've got some areas to grow, but we do have some areas that we really excel in terms of making sure that we are doing everything we possibly can to grow our students wherever they come to us, that we are growing them above and beyond what is expected, so they can meet their full potential. And that's really what we focus on every day. So I think, Dr. Barker, that's such a great way to say it, is that we just work super hard every day so that at the end, you know, it truly is a celebration, and it's an affirmation of the hard work that we know is happening every single day in every school and every classroom with all of our students and teachers. So just a quick, there's a lot of this, and we'll talk more and more as we go through, but this is just a high-level overview, sort of check-in as to where we are and where we will continue to work when we get back in January.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pre-COVID, we had reached 21, had we not, on the average ACT? Real close to it.
Super close. We were right on the cusp.
Well, it took 50 years to get from 19 to 21.
It takes a while.
So if we,
It's because I went out of school.
yeah, if we keep going in that direction, that would be, considering everything that happened during COVID. Yes.
And I will say this, of our cohort from last year, 33% of our students made 21 or higher.
Mhm.
So when you talk about an average, you can have a lot of students doing very well, but you can also have a group of students that aren't quite there that pulls an average down. Now, we had 291 students that actually took the ACT, and, you know, a third of them made 21 or better. So, and then you can see at the high school, we have banners up on our poles with the students' pictures who made 30 or above. And there's quite a few of those. Do you know how many?
I don't know how many, was there 14 that we put up?
I think we put up 16, and we
16.
have two.
We have some more to put up.
from our senior retail.
Yeah, we have more from our senior retail.
And so those are 30 and above. That's
Yeah.
outstanding.
Yeah.
And when
It
you
is.
think about, we're
It took me
testing
12
all of our
years.
students, you know, it's a graduation requirement, so everyone takes it. And there are multiple opportunities to take it, which is a phenomenal opportunity. But, you know, the ACT is really important because that does give us that measure of, we know that's what students need to be able to do, not just if they're going to college, but in career. There's a reason it says college and career. So it's important for all of our students to give us some idea that they've got the skills and knowledge that they need to take advantage of those post-secondary opportunities. Whatever path the student decides to take, it's our job to make sure they're ready to take advantage of that opportunity. So that ACT is something that the high school, all of us, PK-12, it's a focus for us across the board because we know all of our materials, all of our instruction is designed to get students to that point where they'll be successful on that.
Anybody else?
Any other questions?
Thank you, Nelson.
Yep.
All right, on construction update, Brian, you have
Yeah.
comments or?
Well, Board, you will see that there are a lot of agenda items today that have to do with our construction projects. We've got several that we are actively in right now. And so Mr. McDonald is here to share with you some information in regard to some of the items on the agenda that we need to approve. Brian?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Barker. In my over 40 years of practice, I don't think I've ever had a renovation project that presented as many surprises anticipated construction techniques as this high school gym project. With any renovation projects, there are always unexpected. You plan on those and you make contingency plans for those. But even with all the changes that I'm going to present to you today, we're still under that 10% threshold that we always try to maintain on renovation projects. Try not to exceed 10% of the original construction amount. So we're still under that, which is good. But there are several things that have come into play. Mainly two items. One is just unexpected discoveries as you start cutting into floor slabs, tearing out walls, removing ceilings and so forth, and you find things that are unexpected and you deal with them. There's also some code issues that we had to deal with. Normally we try to get code reviews prior to the bids. That doesn't always happen. In this case we had reviews by both state fire marshal's office and the local code officials. The local code officials wanted to get the state fire marshal's comments in before they did their comments, so that meant that theirs came in after bids. Also, with the amount of construction that's been going on in the county, Rondell Branham has hired a Knox County code official to help him review all the documents. So I met with him and he reviewed those, and his main concerns were mainly with ADA issues, and his interpretation is a little bit different than how I would interpret it, ADA, or the state would interpret ADA. But anyway, that's the officials that we work with.
And so, excuse me, they can have a personal definition of what ADA means?
Not really
versus-
personal, it's more like an interpretation, how they view the code. We look at it one way, and we always try to meet the intent of the code. The intent of the code may mean we do something a little different. They may agree or disagree with that.
Anything we do would be an improvement to what we have now.
That is true.
I'm gonna say that is.
So having said all that, the first item on the agenda was the approval of a proposed change, what we call proposal request, number one. And let me say also that when we get these cost proposals from the contractor, the final number is usually not their first number. there's some negotiation, there's a lot of review, there's backup that we have to receive from the contractor and subcontractors. And those numbers almost always come down as we talk through the cost and then make them explain and justify every cost item. The first one was all code related, and it was a code related for the final state fire marshal's office review. We got the initial reviews in before the project bid, but the final review was delayed, came in after. There wasn't a whole lot of changes to that, but sometimes a little code change, a little review comment can turn into significant costs. So Chris, if you'll move to the first slide there, whoops, yeah, that one right there. I stuck this photograph here at the bottom left just as a side. It doesn't have to do with the change, but I wanted to let the board know that there has been a significant amount of recycling on this project. Noble Metals is the company that it was a subcontractor to the demolition subcontractor, and they were able to salvage all the metal. And that photograph there, you see a bunch of old lockers being they were dumped in the dumpster there. All the metal was salvaged for recycling: lockers, doors, frames, conduit, any metal. Of course, copper was pulled out separately because that has a value that they can get back. Also, a lot of the concrete, we cut out a significant amount of concrete slabs. They cut those into chunks, they take them and grind them up and use that for recycling. And I think just about all of the old masonry block was also salvaged, and that's also collected and ground up and recycled. So a good portion of it was recycled, which is always good. Now, getting into the cost aspect of this, number one, is State Fire Marshal's Office final code review comments. They're interpreted a couple of spaces that required it to be rated, that we thought the code said you didn't have to do that. And then also on the upper level, they wanted to have a smoke partition between that classroom and the rest of the building. That part of the building is sprinkler. I think we needed to do that, but we debated back and forth and ultimately had to do that. That in itself was not that much of a significant cost change, but when you do that, then you have penetrations through those walls. Mechanical ducts, conduit, plumbing, all those have to be sealed up. And so that's where a lot of this cost has come from. Also, let's see, what else was there? It also affected the doors in those spaces. They had to be upgraded from non-rated to rated. So, total of that, after we went back and forth on the cost proposal with the contractor, was, I believe, $46,513. So, you want to vote on these individually? Okay, so that's the first. Any other questions?
So anybody got questions, comments, fusses, cusses, throw them at Brian right now? Yeah, give it to him.
We can just leave it like it is right now or fix it.
Unfortunately, these are code items, and so we have to comply, and,
We have dealt with state fire marshal many times, seems like. Every time, every project is,
you win a battle every now and then.
really? When? I don't remember, I don't recall
I'll tell
when.
you one here in a minute, but anyway,
Again, questions, comments? We'll go ahead and vote on this first. Yep. I have a motion to approve personal, let's see, project 21004, proposal request number 1 revised, total amount of $46,513. Do I hear a motion?
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion by Mr. Chadwick, second. Second by Mr. Claybo. All in favor? Say aye. Any opposed? All right. Revision 1 approved.
okay.
Brian, do you wanna
Move on.
Go to the next one.
Number two, now number two is the big one. That one is a result of the local code review, which as I mentioned earlier was mainly ADA related. In talking with the Knox County code reviewer that was hired by our city, it came down to one word, code, for a lot of these ADA issues, and that is the word stall. The code says you have to have an ADA stall in the bathroom if it has over a certain number of fixtures, which we had the two large men's and women's toilets on the first floor. And I had made that ADA room because the school system wanted to have individual family toilets in addition to the main toilets to handle handicap or other issues, if somebody needed assistance, so forth, they had an individual room. And so we had met the intent of the code, and the plans reviewer said, well, the code says stall, and I said, well, stall, room, you've achieved the same thing. And in fact, I think it is even a better situation for a assembly building where you have large crowds, and if someone is handicapped, having them maneuver through a bathroom that has a handicapped stall is more difficult than just having a separate room that they can use. So I thought from a practical standpoint it made more sense. And so after back and forth, he said, well, I'll throw it back to Rondell Branham. He said, if he goes along with your interpretation, he says, I'll go along with it. So I went to Rondell. Unfortunately, he sided with the Knox County Plans Reviewer that he had hired. So we had to make a significant amount of changes to the bathrooms. Now, the other part of number two, as we were developing that cost proposal for the contractor, we were running into issues during demolition phase. We cut into a slab, we tore out a wall, we took down a ceiling, and we would find things and we would have to address them. About 2/3 of this cost proposal is code related, about 1/3 is as a result of discoveries that we ran across, and we were constantly running into it. So I said, well, let's get this in here, let's get that in here, let's try to get all these in there. So it kept growing, and it took time to get them all designed, the decisions made about what to do, cost proposals back and forth with the contractor. And then Lenoir City Schools also said, well, there's a few things we'd like to change as well. And we got those in there. The net result of the school changes was actually a credit, so they didn't add any more to the project. But if you go to the next slide, Chris, let me just give you some sort of broad overview. I've pulled a few pictures from the progress meeting reports that we issue every 2 weeks. And if you look at photo number 1 there, that's the excavation on the west side for the low-grade sanitary plumbing. And when I look at this photograph, it looks more like an archaeological dig than a construction site. Several things come to mind here. They had to dig deep to get get the lines in, to get under things, obstacles. The clay, that's just Tennessee red clay. The soil conditions seem to be pretty stable, because when they dug those trenches, you notice, that they didn't slough off. They pretty stable. Now that in the middle of that photograph, you see it looks like a line going through at an angle. If you jump over to photo number 3, that is an electrical line that I can't remember if we ended up retaining it or abandoning it. But when they installed that line originally in the 1960s, they laid a concrete block on the ground, and then they put a bond beam block on that, and that's a block that's open on top. And then they laid their conduit into that, and then they grouted over it. Sometimes when you install below-grade electrical lines, you encase them in concrete just to protect them. But they opted to do it that way. I've never seen it done that way before, and I don't know why it was done that you start to think about, well, were the soil conditions bad? Were they just trying to make sure that line didn't move or whatever? I don't know. And then if you go over to photo number 4, see that red dotted line is indicating that the slab on the left is just a little bit higher than the slab on the right. So it's settled, or maybe it was installed that way because there was a wall between those two slabs. We don't know, but the indication of maybe there was a little bit of instability. Jump up to number 2 photograph. On the west side, a couple of those concrete columns were spalled quite significantly. You can see that's one crack that we ran into. There were several more. So we had to patch those. The structural engineer said they needed to be patched. We couldn't just leave them that way. Jump down to photo number 5. That didn't affect cost, but it was just interesting. That is, on the left, it was the old women's toilet floor on the upper level. On the right was the men's, and there's 2 different size tiles, 2-inch tile on one side and 1 inch on the other. I don't know why, but you didn't notice it because you couldn't see both rooms at the same time until we tore out the wall between them. And once we tore the wall out, that was filled in with grout, and then the whole floor will be leveled and we'll put vinyl tile, and that will become a new classroom. That's just something interesting. Now we go to number 6. 2x4 wood studs under a concrete slab. Well, you just don't do that. You don't hold up concrete slabs in 2x4s. So that just happened to be where they cut the slab. About half of the concrete slab on the east side and west sides of the gym were removed so that we could put all the new plumbing in. And it revealed those 2x4 studs there. We can't figure out why they're there. Certainly they weren't propping up the slab. The fact that they're still there after 55 years is odd because you would think they would had rotted away. The spacing doesn't really make any sense.
Grade stakes.
Yeah, grade stakes. So nothing really made sense about that, but it caused us to think, well, was there some soil instability going on there? And so just to be safe, we said we're going to add some steel reinforcing bars drilled into the edge of that slab, and when we pour the new slab, it will tie the new slab and the old slab together, and we'll make sure we're properly compacted underneath on the new slab, and we won't have any differential settlement. So that's another thing that we noticed that was highly unusual. Okay, Chris, go on to the next slide here. I'm going to touch a little bit on the air conditioning project. All of these changes are for the renovation project, but a couple of these photographs relate to the air conditioning project. The upper left photograph, that's the structure that holds up the grandstands, the second floor balcony that has the fixed seating. On the other side had the bleachers that have since been removed, and it's turned into an athletic practice area. But that was somewhat a surprise to see the way that was constructed. It's actually over-designed. Normally when you find old buildings, structurally, they're inadequate to meet today's codes. This one, they put these 16-inch deep slope steel beams in to support the grandstands, and they spaced them 3.5 feet apart. And then they came back and poured a cast-in-place riser. You can see the plywood formwork markings on the concrete. And then on top of that, they put a steel deck and poured concrete, and that's the tread for each one of the steps up that the seats sit on. If they just used a little bit deeper deck, they could have eliminated half of those beams. But that's the way it was built. But anyway, it's solid. It's very strong. There's no chance of anything happening there. But it's just another thing that we had to deal with. Those pipes you see that are under the bottom of there, those are existing water pipes that are insulated. Those are going to be retained, and they serve the heaters in the gymnasium that we're also going to leave as a secondary backup system in case you ever have issues with the air conditioning. system that's being installed. The middle top photo is on the east side, where we below the athletic training space. That particular part of the building was not constructed according to the original plans. The original plans had a totally concrete pan system, and this was, for some reason, changed to steel beams and then concrete deck and poured on top. And they're all covered with plaster finish, except right here. There was a wall apparently there. When we took the wall down, they left it exposed, and we got to go back and cover it back up to maintain the fire rating. There's, you should see as you run down the photograph there, there's some little spots that we'll also have to patch those as well. Top right photo is just an example of when you tear a ceiling out, what do you find? Well, you find a mess. Those two boxes are the controls for the telescoping bleachers. Now, generally, if you want to put controls for some, you put them in a room where you can get to them and access them. But they put them above the ceiling. We don't want to move them because that's another large expense. So it will be above a new ceiling that will be accessible, so we can get to them. To the right of that is a communication device, a whole mess of wires, and below that is fire alarm panels. So the contractors be very careful about, what comes out, what stays in, what's active, what's abandoned, and in that process, sometimes things are cut. A few months ago, they cut a major fiber line that comes from the high school, runs to the gym, and goes to the career center. It was accidentally cut, but they were warned about that, so that they had to repair that on their own. But it's just an example of things that we run into. Now we move down to the bottom row of photographs. This is related to the air conditioning project. That space you're looking at there are the old upstairs toilets, now that everything's been torn out. Bottom left photograph is something that I don't know what happened there. I can't really figure out, we can only guess. But you see those little pockets in the wall that the arrow's pointing to? Those were actually built into that wall when the building was originally constructed. And they generally line up with a steel roof joist, but as it runs down the wall, the spacing starts to change, which didn't make sense either. And so we thought, well, maybe that's where they originally thought they were going to put the roof joist. And for some reason, they decided to raise it up higher. That's one theory. There's also some flashing in that wall that's between those pockets in the roof deck that indicates that wall should have been an exterior wall because the flashing is coming out. And in that case, that's the exterior portion of the wall. The brick that's above that roof deck is the brick wall of the taller gymnasium. And they extended the brick down into the space, and they corbelled it back. You can't really see in that photograph. Corbelled it back to line up with the block, but all the joints were not finished. It just left, rough. So indicates, well, they didn't intend that to be exposed. But it still doesn't make sense. Now, normally that wouldn't be a big deal, but unfortunately, this wall, which is between what will become a classroom and the gymnasium, has to be 2-hour rated. Now, if you have a 2-hour rated wall, you can't have holes in it. So we've got to come back and fill in every one of those with grout. There's 43 of them. And that's also where we're going to be attaching steel plates to hold up new steel beams that will support the new rooftop units that will go right above that, because the existing roof structure is not adequate to support that load. Now you move to the opposite side of the wall, the far right lower photograph. There's a piece of conduit that has been welded to the tops of the bar joists all the way across that wall. They're not it's not continuous, it's just in maybe 20-foot sections. There's a break. and it's welded to the bar joist. Structurally, that doesn't provide any support whatsoever. And it's a piece of conduit, it's not an angle, a steel angle. So we don't have any idea why that was done. Doesn't make sense. But we've got to take it out because it's in the way of steel plates and beams that we've got to anchor to that end of the wall. Just another item that's part of all this. The middle bottom photograph shows a duct that's also in the way of the steel beams. It'll have to be taken down and put back up, but we're also looking at maybe doing something a little bit different that allows us to not have to reinstall that, as well as that duct you see in the middle of the photograph that turns and goes down to the space below. It disrupts a little bit of the layout of that classroom, and we're trying to come out with a way to eliminate that, at least on that end of the classroom. So those are some examples of things that we're running into. Let's see, go to the next slide, Chris. No, that's the other proposal request. Okay, go back to the previous one. There are many other examples of what we've run into and continuing to run into. I mentioned the fact of the conduit below the slab that was supported by the block. It's not unusual to put conduit below the slab. However, we've just recently discovered, as they cut into the floor slab, they actually cast the conduit into the slab, which is not right. You don't do that. You put it at least 18 inches below the slab. So as we've cut this concrete slab, they've cut conduit, which is cut wiring to certain pieces of equipment that we are keeping that need to be maintained. Most critically, the line was cut to the emergency lighting system. We had to repair that right away because you have to have that by code. So next month I'll be presenting, I think it's less than $10,000, but there's been several lines that have been cut that will have to be repaired.
You're just full of good news.
What's that?
You're just full of good news. I mean,
I know it, I know it.
it's supposed to be Christmas.
Well, there's better days ahead.
Okay.
So all of this, like I said, about 2/3 are codes, about 1/3 was discoveries. We had to do a lot of things. And as we went through this, and as we were making changes, I said, okay, what can I do? What can I change to make this cost less? Can I change something to save a little bit of money to offset? And we came up with about $40,000 in savings without hurting the quality of the project to offset some of these costs. But unfortunately, this one, which started at about $160,000, and then we ended up at $128,428 is what the final number we come up with the contract. And also we have to extend the time as well because these things have caused delays during construction. So that is the gist of that one, although it's big, I know, and it's a lot of money, but we've reviewed every single dime to make sure it's reflective of actual work that has to be done.
Questions, comments?
That was the key word, it has to be done.
Yeah.
I can't leave it like it
Fire
is.
marshal was. Fire marshal. No questions, no comments? Entertain a motion that we approve request number 2 for the amount of $128,428 high school gymnasium project. Say it real fast. It doesn't
Make a
sound
motion,
good.
we approve.
Have a motion from Mr. McNish.
I'll
Second.
second.
Second by Mr. Chadwick. Other questions, comments? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, on to number 3. Right?
Okay, Chris, you don't mind moving to the next slide. This is a proposal request that we issued to pick up some additional changes, some of which were discoveries, and a couple of changes that the schools requested. We wanted to add a job sign to the project, but that'll be constructed very soon and put up. Since we're converting those old toilets on the second level to a classroom, they have the existing cow wall windows, which is a translucent panel. Of course, that was a bathroom, so something you didn't want to see into. So we're going to keep the ones on the ends. As you see that front elevation there, that's what it will look like after the AC project is finished. And the units are up on the roof and the screen wall is put up. But they thought it would be better if they had clear windows into those classrooms rather than the cow wall. A couple of those had holes in them. They were broken, so we're going to have to replace them. One of them is at the bathroom window, so it'll be replaced. The other one was in the classroom area, so we won't install those. Instead, it put aluminum windows with insulated tinted glass. We got a credit for not putting the new cow wall windows in an ad to put the aluminum windows in, and about a $4,000 ad, I think, between that. That little photograph there, the window there in the middle, is showing a hole about the size of a quarter in the cow wall panels on the lower level. What will become the girls' volleyball dressing room. It's just on the inside. Those panels are sandwiched. There's two layers. Something hit it or was hit and poked a little hole in it about the size of a quarter. There's two or three of those in that window and the next one over. They can repair those without having to replace the whole window. To replace the whole window, it's about $2,000. And there's two of them. But we can fix them for less than $1,000, so we ought to just repair them. Go up in the upper right corner, and you see that tile on the wall there? We had called for the tile to be removed so that we could put the new wall finishes on. That tile is old ceramic tile. It's usually a little thicker than what you have today. It's about a quarter-inch thick, and it's set on a grout bed. Now, at the top of the wall, the grout bed's maybe a half-inch thick, but down toward the bottom, it's about an inch and a half thick. And the reason is that wall, that masonry wall, when it was built, it was not built level in the vertical. It's tilted just a little bit. Now that wall's about 125 feet long, so you would expect in that length of wall that maybe in the horizontal distance, it may be just a little bit out of plumb. That's not unusual. But the fact that it's about an inch out of plumb in the vertical, it's only about 12 feet tall, is odd, but that's the way it was built. So when they put the tile on, they corrected it. Put more mud bed at the bottom than they did at the top, and now it's straight. But we can't attach our wall panels to the tile. We need to attach the masonry. So they started tearing the tile off, but as you can see, as they did that, not only was the tile coming off, but the face of the block was coming with it. There was just no way to get it off clean. And that is a 2-hour rated wall, so we can't damage the masonry wall. So we're gonna have to leave it and then add some steel furring drywall to it, so we can attach the new panels. So that's another thing that's come up. Also in this cost proposal, in the middle photograph, that's a picture of the lobby ceiling and a cast iron sanitary line that runs most of the length of the lobby above the ceiling. That served the old toilets. We were going to reuse that line as cast iron. I didn't see any reason why we couldn't. But when we got into it and they scoped it, they found out it was 60% clogged. The reason, twofold. Number one is when line was installed, it was installed level. And you're not supposed to install plumbing lines level, you're supposed to slope them, obviously, so they'll drain. Also, the line is 6 inches, it's a 6-inch line, and it gets down toward the end, there were about 30 fixtures that were feeding into this line. We got down to the end of the line, it went from 6 inches down to 4 inches. Well, that's opposite. As you pick up more fixtures, the line's supposed to get bigger, not smaller. So that's those two items were, I'm sure, the reasons why that line was so clogged. Eventually, it was making its way, all the waste was making its way out and down, but it obviously didn't help that line was in that condition, installed that way. So we're gonna have to replace it. That is a significant cost. We're keeping, once that line goes down the end, the west end of the gym, it turns, goes down, and goes into the locker room area, and then exits the building and at the corner and goes to a sanitary line somewhere in the yard between the gym and the high school. That line is very deep, a lot deeper than we anticipated, but we scoped that line too, just to see if we could reuse it as it went out to the out of the building, because it was cast iron. And they found that the line was fairly clear. As it exited the building, it sloped down, which is good. Then it started sloping up a little bit. And then the further it went back down again. And then a little further, it went back up again. Well, you know, the plumbing lines, you know, don't work very well when they're going like this. So we just said, well, we just need to replace the whole line. And that's what needs to be done. Let's see what else. Steel valves, we talked about that. All right there. But that covers all that. So when we added all that up, this one was actually over 30,000 originally. We caught a couple of errors. And got it down to 23,409. Just picking up several last minute changes. So I think we obviously need to do those as well.
So then, board, we need to change the amount there on item number 14 from 30,049 to 23,409. 23,409.
Wait a minute, let me go back.
No, you don't get second shots. That's it.
You done quoted it now.
I think the 30,000 is correct.
30,000 is what's in the change order.
Okay, let me go back and look. That may be one that we're,
Merry Christmas, Mitch.
no, it is 30,000. Trying to figure out where that 33 came from. It may have been another. That is the letter I sent you, right, Dr.
Yes.
Barker?
Yeah.
Yes.
30,000. Let me look at something right quick to make sure. I know one of those others I sent you a follow-up letter that changed it.
That was on the first one, wasn't it? That changed.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct, 30,049.
So it is correct as written.
As
On your
written.
agenda.
Yeah, you're right. I'm wrong. I'm looking at the breakdown here to make sure that it's. Okay,
Good.
good,
Which one did we wind up with?
Which one do you think? 30,409.
yeah, that's it. That's the number.
That's what it added.
Any questions, comments, anything else? We hear a motion to do another add-on for request number 5.
Yes.
Number 5, for the amount of $30,049. Your motion?
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Claybo. Second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Murray. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now comes the good news. We gotta fund it somehow.
Let me, go through a couple of quick slides
Okay.
after this. Chris, if you go to the next one. These have been previously approved by the board, I think either in the September or October board meeting, but I just wanted to give you an overview of what we discovered. Number 3 was some, steel tie rods that connect the beams, or rather columns, steel columns on either side of the gym. They run from one side to the other. The presence of tie rods is not that uncommon. Mainly you see it in pre-engineered metal buildings, and normally you'll see a tie rod that go from the steel beam and go out at an angle for maybe 15, 20 feet. It's usually there to stabilize the building as it's being constructed. But these went straight between the columns, and they're 1.25 inch steel tie rods. They didn't know they were. We didn't know they're there. They weren't on the old drawings. And we went to the structural engineer and said, can we just do we have to replace them, or can we get by with this, just leaving it as is? He did an analysis, said, no, we need to have them back. We assume that they occur at each one of the columns, all the way across the gym. Now that we know they're there in the future, if you have to do some more work, we'll know to avoid them. But we cut them on the east side at one column line, and we cut them on the west side at one column line. Total of 500 linear feet of 1.25 inch steel rods were replaced, and that was that cost proposal. It was approved at the previous board meeting. I just wanted to give you a visual of that. Go to the next slide, Chris. This was also approved at the previous board member meeting, and that is along the front of the gym. We had an existing sidewalk that was in bad shape, so it was replaced. It was in the documents to replace it. And there were some storm drainage lines coming out from that. There were 2, but when we started tearing in there, we found 4 more that we didn't know about. The reason we didn't know about it is because over the years, the driveway had been paved, added additional pavement, and they'd essentially covered up those lines. Very, very tip top was still visible if you got down on your hands and knees and looked at it. So when we saw that, we thought, well, that's an awful lot of water to be dumping out onto that driveway when you have a heavy rain. And on the east, west, and south sides, all the storm drainage goes underground. This side, it was all surface. So we thought, well, it's best to get it all underground. And so that's what that cost proposal before that you approved previously. And then as those lines go out into the yard between the gym and the high school building, there was a couple of catch basins that were fairly deep, swales that slope down. That's the pathway when you have football games. People park in the student parking lot and they walk across campus and they walk between those 2 buildings. That's sort of the general pathway that people take. And so we thought if we get that leveled up, much smoother, even on the yard there, it'd be easier to walk across. And we were actually able to eliminate one of the catch basins, cover it up, and cover it with dirt. And it was actually damaged a little bit anyway, so we covered that up. So that will improve that area as well. So that's what happened on that. That was previously approved. You already got that into the project. As I said, there's maybe another $10,000 coming that will bring to the next board meeting to repair the cut conduit, and one other cost proposal we're working on. We're also looking at maybe some credits on something that we haven't developed that yet. So there's next time I come here, I hope the number presented, it's got a negative in front of it. And so it'll make it a little bit better. We wanna keep within that 10% overage and as much as we can. I think we'll be able to achieve that. 95% through with demolition, so we don't expect to run into any more problems. And over the Christmas break, they will be cutting the 8 holes in the side of the gym wall for the new air conditioning ducts to go from the outside units through the wall. And we don't anticipate there being any problems there, but we'll see.
Now, with all these changes, what do you anticipate final completion when?
Right now,
Still
as far as timeline,
Yep.
We're looking at it's summer '23. Right now, I think we're about into, well, it's on the renovation project, summer of '23. And there's not been a whole lot of activity on the AC project because a lot of it is ordering equipment, which has been done, mainly the large AC units that are going up on the roof. Structural steel that supports them, all it's on order. Transformer had to be added. That was the longest lead item. I think it was 8 or 9 months, something like that.
It's over 26 weeks.
Yeah. So that equipment should be coming in, sometime next spring or so. Going to the next slide, Chris. The project has been proceeding slowly, but as we've gotten these things figured out, you can see there's a top photograph. There's a lot of ductwork going in. That's on the east side. Bottom left photograph is the west side. That's all the plumbing for the showers and the toilets. You see it's all in. It's covered up now. Bottom right showing new copper going in. So it's starting to pick up the pace. Once these now are approved, with these other changes, it'll cut the contractor loose, and so you'll see a lot more progress. Of course, most of it's on the inside. All at the same time, we're keeping the gymnasium open for business. We've had to produce temporary occupancy and evacuation plans. We have to make sure the emergency lighting exit signs are working, but I think you've already had 3 or 4 ball games. They seem to have gone well, and the fire marshal was happy with all the signage that they've been put up. So it seems to be working very well. I don't know, have you opened up the grandstands yet for a game?
Orange section?
Orange section, have they
Yes.
opened up for a game?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, so that's good, that's a good test, everything seems to be working well. So we wanna maintain that, of course, throughout the whole construction project. We're dancing right on the edge, code-wise, of having to upgrade the whole building. We made an agreement with the fire marshal's office, very beginning, that we were only renovating the locker rooms, and then that classroom building upstairs, we have to sprinkle it because it's education occupancy. The rest of the building is assembly occupancy. So we wanna make sure we stay on the other side of that line. We don't cross it. I got an email from the state fire marshal, they said, I think you may need to sprinkle the locker rooms. And I said, no, remember, the agreement we made at the very beginning, we reviewed the building under the existing building code and only upgrading the locker room areas, and that's all separated. And she came back and said, oh yeah, you're right, I got ahead of myself, so we gotta make sure we maintain that line, otherwise, we'd be looking at upgrading the whole building to current codes, which would involve a lot more cost. We're trying to avoid that, and so far, I think we'll be able to do that. Got a very nice facility, I think, as far as high school gymnasium, it's one of the best in East Tennessee.
Not one, it is the best.
And probably it's gonna be a lot better now,
Oh, yeah.
and especially for the students and the athletic department. They will have a top-rate facility. Visiting teams that come in, I think will obviously be impressed as well, so. It's gonna look nice when it's all said and done. Function very well. And meet ADA in all aspects.
Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome. I know it took a long time, but that was
A lot of money.
a lot of money, so
It
it
is. It is.
deserves explanation.
It's 66-year-old or 60-plus-year-old building that blew up, blew out, and
Yeah,
we knew there was gonna be challenges, and
right,
we found it.
yeah, we
We
have.
found
we have
You think
certain-
Unfortunately,
any of the problems you ran into were related to that explosion, the original one when it was
You
being
know,
built?
the fact that they built that, second floor structure differently than what's shown on the drawings may have played into that. Some of the beams are supported by columns, concrete columns, but then there's beams in between that don't fall on a column line, they actually fall over windows, which is a little unusual. So the structure, changed, and that could have been
Yeah.
why they did it. I don't know.
I know it buckled, those steel beams you were talking about, it buckled. Some of them, the explosion was so great, yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know why they decided to do that. They put a lot of steel into the building, and it could be, the main gym has the main steel structure. Purlins, it could be that they just wanted to stay with steel rather than concrete. For cost, maybe that's the way the contractor was more comfortable building that way, who knows? All kinds of reasons that could have played into it, but steel cost a whole lot less in 1966 than it does in
Yeah.
2022. So does concrete, a lot of other things.
anybody? Thank you, Brian.
Okay,
Appreciate
you're welcome.
sharing that wonderful news with us.
Yes.
Now on to 15. Now that we've got all the good news, we have to put money in the bank to pay for it. So, do I hear a motion, we transfer $204,999 from fund balance to capital projects to cover
Well,
the
we've
cost.
already approved the 3 projects, I'll make a motion, we put the money in there to pay for it.
We better. Dr. Barker, please signing a bad check.
Angela won't let me do that.
I'll second.
A motion by Glenn and a second by Rick, is that correct?
Yes.
To approve transferring the money. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, on to 16. Approval to purchase bleachers from Sightlines Athletic Facilities, Lenoir City High School baseball stadium. Dr. Barker or Chris? I
Yes, so, been working with our athletic director, Chris Britton, and we have received some quotes for this budgeted item. We know that those bleachers are dangerous, and we want to make sure that we are in good standing and have a good opportunity for our fans for baseball games. And so we've looked at several different options. The one that seems to be our recommendation is Sightline Athletic Facilities. They have given us a quote not to exceed $91,698. There is a possibility it will come in less than that. We've had the conversation, but I would ask the board to approve $91,698 as the maximum amount for that particular project. You were able to see a sample of the bleachers downstairs, and many of you have been in to look at those. So I ask for approval for that. Chris, would you like to add anything?
Well, I would just say one thing is my plan, and I haven't spoken with Mr. Ingram yet, is to get some of our kids to help with demo of that project, which would be removing that pressure treated wood, and then really just manual labor of knocking down those cinder blocks and hauling those off. So, cost would, at least a dumpster, maybe some other things like that, some gloves maybe for the kids, sledgehammer, so just some minor things, but we want to take that into consideration as well, that we were in charge of making sure that area is demoed and prepped and ready for them to come in with the bleachers.
On the new bleachers, the fold-down chairs, will they be in that same front section where there were fold-down chairs? And there'll be new bleachers on each side?
There'll be new bleachers on each side. Those will extend about 12 more feet. We're at 33 feet on each side, so we're gonna extend those to 45 feet. We could extend more, but we have a light pole that
Right.
starts blocking a good portion of the field. So we're gonna be gaining 12 feet on the home and visitor side. And then, yes, behind home plate, we'll still have the stadium seat.
I think we've already approved doing this, haven't we? We're just approving who the company is
Yes.
that's going to do it.
And the
Okay.
expenditure.
Yeah. What was that, 91,000?
$91,698,
Not to exceed.
not to exceed that.
Question? Your motion, we approve purchase of the bleachers from Sightlines not to exceed $91,698,000.
Make a motion.
Mr. Mo, a motion by Mr. Claybo, Mr. Motion. There a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Murray. Approved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, on to 17, approval to make Tuesday, February 21st, a professional development day. Dr. Parker?
Yes, that's a change in our schedule, as was approved, so that would need to have approval. We did this last year where we took, the Monday, which is a professional development day, and, President's Day, students are out of school already. But we were taking Tuesday and make it a 2-day professional development opportunity for teachers. It was very well received last year, and, we want to continue that this year to make that change in our calendar. So it will be what we call a stockpile day, and that is time that is allotted because we go 30 minutes longer every day than the state requires. So we can build up time without having to add yet another student day in the calendar. So that day would become a teacher professional development day, and it would be students learning at home on that day.
Questions, comments? Do we
Make
need
the
to approve?
motion, we approve.
Motion by Mr. Minish to approve professional development day. Second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Murray. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And item number 18, request to cancel the December workshop. Good winter break.
You sure you don't want to come in during the Christmas break?
What was it, the 20th?
I'll entertain a motion.
I believe that's the 23rd.
23rd. Motion from Mr. Chadwick to cancel, second. Anybody? Please, somebody. Second by Ms. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? I didn't talk to the big guy, you're in trouble. Santa Claus, you've been on the naughty list all year long.
No, wait a minute.
That's your superintendent comments, Dr.
I
Parker.
talked about you too.
Yes, I just want to say Merry Christmas to everyone. We start our official winter break Monday, December the 19th. We'll go through January the 2nd. Our first day back for all staff and students will be January the 3rd. So everyone has a wonderful time. Again, I just want to celebrate our Tennessee report card results, and you have heard about that. You've seen the information in the newspaper. As a school system, we did a phenomenal job, and that is a credit to our teachers, our administrators. So I just want everyone to hear me say thank you to the team that it takes and our students for the performance that they showed. I want to celebrate, again, our district was one of 34 in the state of Tennessee that received 2 grants yesterday. One for our middle school for STEM, which was $10,000. Another one for our high school, which was just over $19,000. And so I want to say thank you to our administrators and Mr. Weeks for going after these grants. Even though we just spent over $200,000 out of fund balance for these construction projects, we continue to get grants, and we are looking forward to some additional ones, and I want to talk about one more in here in just a second. So congratulations to the middle school and the high school for those grants. I want to say congratulations to our leaders. Last week, we participated in a national conference in Nashville. Ms. Smith served on the host committee and was the program's chair for this national conference from Learning Forward. So thank you to your work. It's meaningful to everybody across the state as well as our nation. I want to say congratulations to Sherry Long, Sean Walker, Ashley Graves, and Shannon Tufts, who all participated in sessions and were presenters during that conference. We're very excited to have our people recognized for their professionalism. And then last Friday, our legislators, state board members, local elected officials, school leaders, teachers, and students all spent a day in our district when we started at the elementary and saw some wonderful work there and ended at the high school. And I will just say I have had tremendous follow-up conversations with our state board members and some legislators about how impressed they were with all of the things they saw and the people that they talked to, including our students. And our students, I think, kind of stole the show at the end. And one of the things that our students talked about was the importance of feeling connected and belonging, and talked about social emotional needs and the way that we still need to work to include them. So I want to let the board know today that Mr. Josh Brannon took the initiative to write a grant called Resilient School Communities Grant, and he received $104,359 $104,359.94 with this grant. And so with that grant, we're going to turn around and we're going to purchase training and a program that will be initiated. We already started it at the middle school. It's called Capturing Kids' Hearts. It's a phenomenal program. 2 years ago or more, I sent Mr. Britton and Dr. Lewis to training, and they were our first ones in our school district to go through that training. And I know that Coach Britton and Dr. Lewis applied it in their classrooms with some techniques and had phenomenal results. And so it was just so expensive, we didn't have the wherewithal. So with this money that Mr. Brandon has secured for us through a grant, we're going to complete training at our middle school and add to that all of our people at the elementary school. With these dollars coming in, we are going to do that January the 16th, which is Martin Luther King Day, and January the 17th. So that means that January 17th needs to be an at-home learning day for our elementary and middle school students only. High school students would still attend on that Tuesday the 17th, but we need our teachers and our administrators at both the middle and the elementary to have that time to participate in the training. Let me tell you a little bit about the training. The program is called Capturing Kids' Hearts. It is a program that, through experiential training, expert coaching, and character-based curriculum, it provides for students personalized support. Capturing Kids' Hearts equips professionals in K-12 education to implement transformational processes focused on social, emotional well-being, relationship-driven campus culture, and student connectedness. Those are all of the things that we heard from our students last Friday. So I'm very excited that we have this opportunity. We have these dollars that are coming in that we can pour directly into our schools immediately. And so you will hear more about this. Our principals are already letting our teachers know about those dates, and we will be letting our parents know after Christmas that our elementary and middle school students will have an at-home learning day with learning opportunities on that January the 17th. High schoolers, they'll continue as, with the schedule as noted. So I'm excited to have that opportunity and just wanted to make sure that that you all know that we're very responsive to listening to what our students need and have this opportunity to get this program installed in our school system. So, a lot of good things happening, and I appreciate the support of the board as we go about doing good things for students and kids and teachers. So do you have any questions about capturing kids' hearts or anything else I've shared? Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Rick? Anything you wanna say? Chris? Anybody aboard?
Just Merry Christmas to
So I'll
everybody.
go echo Dr. Barker's sentiment, wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, enjoy your time off with family, friends. Y'all learned it, it's been a long and tough semester, so enjoy your time, appreciate everything y'all do for us. I hear a motion, we adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Nish to adjourn, second.
Second.
Murray, all in favor, aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned. That's it. What are y'all doing today?